Our reports suggest that gender-based violence costs South Africa between 24 billion rand and 42.4 billion rand yearly. And it comes with other costs on public resources as community organizations are battling to keep up with the demand for related services. For more on this, we're joined by Katlego Assis, the Enterprise and Supplier Development Manager at Rhiza Babuyile. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, this number speaks to the hidden costs of gender-based violence, something that is not spoken of.
Good afternoon, Paul. Thank you for having me. Yes, true. Often I think the cost of something that causes the society to bleed is always looked at, from one lens. But if we looked at gender-based violence holistically, the entire society is bleeding, not just specifically victims and perpetrators in the system, but the GDP of the country is affected, and resources obviously being the perfect indicator that indicates that this is something that needs more of our attention.
And looking at the conversations that are being had about women empowerment and ensuring that women do benefit from the value chain, and also the call for women to start their own businesses and get out of situations that may expose them to the risk and gender-based violence. What do you believe the bigger conversation should be when it comes to the reality on the ground and what women are facing on a day-to-day?
The bigger conversation, or the quality conversation that we need to be having, is, have we created an environment where women can freely be worthy contributors of the economy and really be part of the economy in such a way that they do not have to fear certain things? Because gender-based violence is not something that is directly, it's more of it's not directly linked to many things, but it's directly affecting the economy. So I believe that the quality conversation is that as a nation, as a society, have we even considered what sort of environment will cultivate women flourishing as economic contributors on ground?
The victim's dignity and mental health is also something that should not be overlooked, because if one has to consider what the environment could be like for a woman who's exposed to gender-based violence, and that in itself, barring them from going out there and finding work, is also almost like just going around in circles.
Yes, what gender-based violence does, it doesn't take away only, your dignity. It takes away opportunity. It takes away your ability to perform, your ability to be at your best. And in that, there are so many losses that a woman experiences because of gender-based violence. So to not deal with this is to take away so much from women. And I believe that, with the type of country that we live in that advances women's development and wanting to do it well, if we do not look at how we are doing this, and if we've actually created an environment and allocated resources for it to be done worthily, there's nothing that we are doing actually, even in the midst of the opportunities that we say exist for women.
Yeah. How much data needs to be collected in order to make an impact? And as you go about your work, what are the challenges that you found?
Well, the greatest challenge at the moment is that not all GBV cases are reported. So we work with what is there, what is available for us. And another challenge that brings is that can we respond adequately to the magnitude of what is out there? Because you, as an organization that is deeply entrenched in healthcare within the community, we found sometimes our responses may be inadequate because we haven't adequately prepared. And while the cases are not reported, you find that resources are not necessarily readily available to respond, to whatever injuries or scourge that might be there. And this is twofold. You find that we don't have resources in terms of healthcare professionals who understand the victim's condition and what they might need to go through for rehabilitation and reintegration into society, back into society. And resources in relations to medical health care, just being able to have the necessary tools to make sure that a victim is brought back to health, in a dignifying way, and then they can then go on to their healing journey.
Yeah, and the role of NGOs in this, situation, how important is it, and how important is it also for organizations to come together and assist to ensure that women are indeed empowered and perhaps reap from the benefits that are out there, the many projects that are out there to accommodate and empower women?
Well, it's important for all of us, to come together, not necessarily just NGOs, perhaps NGOs more so because they are then doing the particular work on ground. So it's more important for them to understand what they're dealing with, to be properly resourced, and to understand the type of impact they would like to, bring forth. So it's not just important for NGOs, but as I say, the emphasis is on NGOs that are doing the work. But unfortunately, due to the lack of, resources that exist, not necessarily for NGOs per se, but I think within the economy as a whole, the resources have to be shared among sectors and so forth. And due to that, it poses a huge challenge in adequate response. And the role that we all have to play really, in making sure that the advancement of women really it develops or it goes further than we have taken it as a nation, is to understand that women are 50%, if not more, contributors of the economy, and they are the direct, oftentimes have direct beneficiaries linked to them. To not put this in the forefront and not have a quality conversation about GBV. And the truth is, we are talking about GBV, but we need to improve the quality of the conversation if we're really going to drive proper change that is definitely going to be of an impact to our economy and the broader, society. If we don't do that, then we've all failed. It's not just the NGOs, but we've all failed.
Yeah. In ending the vicious circle and, ensuring that we do come to a point where the numbers go down, and they go down dramatically when it comes to gender-based violence. I mean, you mentioned the economical impact and contribution had it not been for gender-based violence. But what about the dependency on the perpetrator, ending that vicious circle? What will that take? Because, I mean, we speak about the data that is needed to make an impact, saying that there isn't much of it, especially as we know of cases that the National Prosecuting Authority often says that victims open cases and withdraw them later because it seems like the logical thing to do when thinking of the finances and who is in charge of those finances.
Yeah. The truth is, if women are, or the reality rather, is that if women are not economically empowered, they are disempowered in many other ways. So if we do not put economic empowerment, there is a link between economic empowerment or the economic independence of an individual, a woman in a relationship, and their ability to respond to certain challenges in a positive way or even a negative way. So what often influences withdrawal of cases, influences women deciding not to move forward with perhaps pursuing justice and so forth, it's often resources and lack of financial independence. So if we are to directly perhaps decrease cases or decrease the type of relations in toxic relationships that most women find themselves in and feel as if that they do not have a choice to leave those relationships, we are going to have to look at economic empowerment in a way that they are then able, because oftentimes it's not just economic empowerment for themselves. It's directly linked to the beneficiaries that they then, that depend on them. So you find that a mother has children and is depending on a father who is perhaps abusive, but then the children might be benefiting. So the children witnessing that situation then perpetuates planned poverty and then GBV again. A cycle then begins again. So if we do not economically empower women adequately and in such a way that they themselves can stand on their own and for their beneficiaries, then we're probably fighting a losing battle at the moment.
Yeah. And what do you think, in terms of information? Do you feel that there is enough information out there for one to see the signs, or perhaps, understand what a toxic relationship is? And is there enough information there to really understand from grassroots level a situation that could essentially become toxic and lead to gender-based violence? Is there enough information and an explanation on the different types of gender-based violence?
I think from a cognitive perspective, there's enough information. It's all around us. But from an experiential perspective, I don't think many women have seen empowered women who stand up and speak against gender-based violence for themselves. And I think that's the struggle. That most of our experiences, that even though we know what maybe toxicity looks like in a relationship, we know when I'm being gaslighted, we know certain things, but not having seen that experientially. So there's this veil of silence that takes place, and there's this doubt that takes place psychologically in a lot of women and in relationships, where because of the cultural narrative, we don't necessarily talk about certain things because of the stigma and the shames linked to being in such a relationship and so forth. So I think from a cognitive level, we've done enough, but from an experiential level, and this is when, children get to learn mostly by experience, observing. If our girls do not see mothers and sisters and aunts rise up to certain things in a certain way, then we are still perpetuating the veil of silence that exists, even though we're educating and informing.
Very well. Thank you so much for that. Let's leave it there for now. Thank you for your time. Katlego Assis, the Enterprise and Supplier Development Manager, speaking there on the report that has made suggestions that gender-based violence costs South Africa between 24 billion rand and 42.4 billion rand.